So you love nerding out on dog behavior and dog behavior science. You want to get in the nitty-gritty of the canine cognition world without having to spend $20,000 on a science degree and without becoming a professional dog trainer. Well, my friend, you have come to the right place, because in this video, I'm going to be listing my top favorite nerdy dog behavior books. These are not necessarily dog training books. They're not like tutorials. These are going to get into the science, and they're going to get into how the brain works. And these are my favorite discussions. These are my favorite books to read. I know you will enjoy them. Let's get into it. What's up, nerds? It's Jenna with Dog Liaison. On this channel, we break down scientific research. If you haven't subscribed already, make sure you do so. Let's get into some of the books that I have compiled here. I want to be very clear. I have not ranked them in my top favorites. I have not put them in any particular order, only because I love them all and they have a special place in my heart. And so to prioritize them would be just too painful for me, to be honest. I don't want to have to do that to my favorite books. So instead, I'm just going to be kind of collecting them all, telling why I like each book, what they would serve for you. Let's get into it. The first book I recommend is The Expression of Emotions in Man and Animals by Charles Darwin. Guys. Charlie D is just the OG. He is the OG. Now here's why I put this guy first. I'm gonna be straight up with you, because I did not read him first. I read this book years later, right? But if I had it my way, if I could go back, I would have actually started with that book so that my brain could learn in the order that science learned. Because one of the things that I think is really interesting is when I was reading Emotions by Charles Darwin, I knew some things he was wrong about, right? Because at that stage he had a little bit of science, but mostly it was all theory. And homie had some good theories that panned out all right, but others missed the point box there. Then that wasn't right. And that's actually evident in that book when you're reading it. You can really see well, not quite. Charlie D, he didn't quite get that, but it's okay. We still love you. And I think that I would have enjoyed kind of learning as science learned, to kind of go through that experience of this is what our logic and our hypothesis told us. And then as you go through these other books, you realize actually it's more this way instead of that way. But nevertheless, all that to say, even if you only decide to read the animals part and you're only interested in learning about the monkeys and all the shenanigans, then it's still fantastic. You can go through basically about half of the book and just read the animals part. One of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that Charles Darwin loved dogs. He had dogs of his own. He wrote about dogs often. Many of his theories stemmed from dogs. And so when you're going through the book, dogs have a very prevalent role in that book. And so yeah, I absolutely recommend reading that as sort of a foundation, and you will learn so much and it'll blow your mind. But then I think as you kind of dive into obviously more modern books and more modern research, you're gonna be like, I see. So that's why I recommend it first. The next book that I recommend is The Domestic Dog, 2nd edition, edited by James Serpell. Full disclosure, it's a textbook, and it reads like a textbook because it is a textbook. But whenever I start researching something, I usually actually start with the domestic dog for no other reason other than to direct me to certain papers, right? To kind of give me that foundation. The domestic dog, well, it's a very detailed book. There's a lot of pages and a lot of subject matter in it, several authors, but it's sort of an overview of every single topic that you could come up with. And so I find that it's a really good reference point. When I'm sitting there and I'm going go through Google Scholar and I kind of get overwhelmed because it says, there's 5 million suggestions for whatever I typed in. What I generally do is I'll pull out that textbook, I'll reference, and I'll find what citations they've given, and then I go there, and that kind of gets my ball rolling. So I find that that textbook is a really good reference point. It's not something that you would ever sit down and read cover to cover. I guess maybe you could, but I don't think that's the purpose of it, right? But it is such a good encompassing book, and it has wonderful, wonderful authors, very well accredited authors, and their citations. I mean, you could get lost in their citations alone. So highly recommend nerding out on that. So the next book that I'm going to recommend, I actually recommended in my last video, which is the best books to treat your dog's aggression or anxiety. And I linked it right here. If you're interested, you can open that in a new tab. I did talk about this one that I talked about in that video, which is The Gift of Fear by Gavin de Becker. As I said in that video, that book is not about dog training. It's not about dogs at all. It's about humans. But more specifically, it's about fear. And I was gifted that book when I was 20, I think. And I was really young and I had just started sort of my passion for learning about dog behavior. I'd always worked with dogs, but that doesn't mean anything. I was actually learning the process of dog behavior. That book came to me at the perfect time in my life. And first of all, I just recommend everybody read it anyway, because it's a fabulous book and it's life-changing. But secondly, there are so many core elements to it that are not unique to humans. It's not about like, what do humans do? It's about how do animals live on Earth, right? How have we all evolved to be able to survive, and what is actually happening in us internally to make that possible? I can't recommend that book enough. I think it's absolutely fantastic. If there was ever a book to sit down and read cover to cover to understand fear, that is the book for you. The next book that I recommend you read to understand dog behavior is The Fundamentals of Comparative Cognition. This is also a textbook, but it's a shorter textbook. It's not that long. I think it's like 130 pages or something like that. But it's a heavy book. There's a lot of big language. Is big girl information. So it's not a light read, but oh my gosh, will it just absolutely make you a smarter person. The way she is able to sort of break down the different perspectives of different animals, understanding the higher order and lower order thinking, comparing species and their ability to think and what's similar, what's different about them. It is fan-flippin-tastic. So to be clear, the book is not about dogs. It's about animals and comparing cognition between animals and humans. But a lot of the principles that we apply to dog training and communicating with dogs stem from comparative cognition. And so if you're ever trying to wonder, you know, how do dogs think and how is that similar or different from the way that we think and the way we process information, that book is going to give you that answer. There are a lot of different comparative cognition books, to be clear. Like, comparative cognition is one of my favorite subjects to talk about. There are a lot of books on it, but I think that The Fundamentals of Comparative Cognition is the OG. It is the staple on the topic. So I would start there, and if you enjoy that book, then you can continue nerding out in the realm of comparative cognition. The next book I'm going to recommend is going to be a little contentious. Full disclosure, there are going to be people that do not like me saying this book. So the next book is called How to Write a Dog Gone Wrong by Pamela Dennison. Okay, let me start off by saying that the book is to help dogs recover through activity, to give you the methods to resolve reactivity and sensitivity on walks, right? She has a history, she has a background in dog obedience trials and dog obedience competitions, and so the book definitely weighs way heavier into obedience skills than I would ever lean. Anyone who's worked in the RRP with me knows that literally we don't even say the word obedience, I think, in the entire program, because it's just so unimportant when it comes to actually recovering dogs' anxiety and helping them through things. So I would say that that book leans a little heavier into basic skills more than I will, but that's a stylistic choice. When it comes to the actual objective communication that she's delivering and the information that she's delivering, it's really good. So she talks a lot about how the amygdala and how hormones and how neurotransmitters are all communicating when a dog goes over threshold or when a dog becomes aroused. And so from the science element of it, I found that that book was really good at explaining in human terms, in normal people terms, what the dog is going through chemically, internally, when they go over threshold and what that experience looks like. And that's one of the reasons why I recommend that book, is because if you're trying to understand what the dog's perspective is when he's over threshold, when he's aroused, when he's anxious, that book is going to give you that clarity very well. I just would say ignore all the parts where she says you have to put your dog in a sit, because I'm here to tell you, you don't have to do that. The next book I'm going to recommend is How Dogs Work by Ray Coppinger and Mark Feinstein. So let me give a full disclosure that if you go read the Google reviews and the Amazon reviews of that book, you will see everybody in the boxes saying that that book reads like a monotone 65-year-old professor who's got tenure and hasn't been passionate about anything in quite some time. I will back that up. There are definitely moments that you're like, can we get some liveliness going on in this book? Because boy, it definitely reads like a textbook. You gotta know that going in. I didn't know that going in, but I found out very quickly. Here's what I will say. If you have a passion for understanding dog behavior and dog ethology specifically, that book, bar none, blows everyone out of the water. That book will give you insights into dog behavior and ethology and history and genetics of dogs more than anyone else you'll ever meet. It's unparalleled in the information. Don't decide to read it at like 11 o'clock at night while you're laying in bed with the lights dimmed, because you'll fall asleep real quick. But all that to say, read the book because it's really good. And I would say that if you aren't interested in reading a book like that because you're like, my brain's not going to be able to handle 400 pages like that, then in that case, I would say try to read Meet Your Dog by Kim Brophy, which I did talk about in the last video, and I've talked about in several of my videos because I'm just such a proponent of it. I would say that Kim Brophy's Meet Your Dog is the more commercial or common folk understanding of how dogs work. You want to nerd out a little bit, but you don't want to become a dog professional overnight, and you don't want to have to read a 400-page textbook to get you there. Then Meet Your Dog by Kim Brophy would be probably the right avenue for you. The next book I recommend is Animals in Translation by Temple Grandin. Again, this is another book that I enjoyed it because I didn't always agree with her, which I know, who am I to disagree with the great goddess Temple Grandin, okay? Believe me, I'm aware. I'm going to humble myself and say that I am no one. Temple Grandin is the queen, okay? However, I enjoyed it because she would make claims that I would find myself going, I don't know if I agree with that. And then she would find another claim and I'd be like, yeah, totally. And so I found that it was very thought-provoking. Obviously, there's the objective science. It's not arguable. It is what it is. This is exactly what the brain is doing. This is literally the different parts of the brain. These are the different stages of development and evolution of the brain. All of that is objective. But the interpretation of that science in the claims that she makes, I would say that I found it very conversational almost, where I felt like my brain was having a conversation with her and we were kind of challenging each other. And I really enjoyed that read because of that. So I would say that I would be interested if you have read Animals in Translation, or you're going to, I'd be interested if you had this similar experience where you sort of felt like you would read one paragraph and you're like, totally 100% agree with everything you just said. And then read another paragraph and you're like, I don't know if I agree with that. That's an interesting one. So I would be interested to see if that was other people's experience as well. I will say the interesting thing about that book is it does a really good job of explaining the different parts of the brain, and more specifically the evolution of brain development through species. That book is really good about that, and I found that subject very interesting. So that's that. The next book that I'm going to recommend is Clinical Behavior Medicine for Dogs and Cats by Dr. Karen Overall. Again, this is a major staple as well. Anyone who is in positive reinforcement, science-backed dog training methods has probably read this book, or parts of it at least. The book is a textbook, okay? And it's more specifically meant for clinicians. I mean, it's meant for veterinarians, their staff, and more veterinarians, okay? So when you're reading that, you kind of have to know that, because that is who her audience is and that's what she's communicating. And so there were a couple of words that I had to type into Google and be like, oh, no. I'm the first to admit that. Alberg was like, oh, don't mind now, because she's talking to vets. So I would say that don't be afraid to get extra nerdy with that book. But what I will say is that her data is unparalleled. The woman has done her freaking research. I mean, there's just no doubt about that. You cannot think that Dr. Overall doesn't know what she's talking about. When you read that book, if you're really interested in understanding science and your understanding of applied studies and implementing what we've learned in the studies to actual behavior care for pets, that book is for you. Along those lines, I would say Low Stress Handling Techniques by Dr. Sophia Yin. I know I mentioned it in my last video. That is also meant for vets and animal welfare people. It's also a textbook. I would say that those two really complement one another really well. I would say that they take a different lens on the same topic, so they kind of balance each other out, and I just enjoy that process a whole lot. I will say though, Dr. Overall's books, she has got two, are pretty expensive because they're textbooks. So you usually have to get the ebook version. I currently have her ebook version, but I have been checking Amazon to see when her soft copy will get released at a lower price, because I think it goes with publishing. So I would say keep an eye on that. You know, if anyone has like 650 bucks on hand and they want to buy that book from me, that'd be really cool. Okay friends, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that you enjoy this nerdy topic and you enjoy some of the books that I have mentioned here. Remember, they are all linked in the description box. Tell me in the comment section below your favorite dog behavior books. Let's have that conversation. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit like, consider subscribing. If you've already subscribed, make sure you hit the notification bell. And if you haven't seen last week's video, make sure you check that out here. I'll see you guys soon.